This is a weird place. Thanks for being here. Petroglyph. I used to be interested, and through this research, I find them less interesting than before. Sure, they're very pretty, and they're also very childlike. A lot of people invest a lot of time trying to make sense of them, and maybe there is meaning, but maybe there isn't. Today, we're gonna explore this question. Are petroglyphs a bunch of BS? It's like 1 in the morning. I feel so free at 1. It's a type of sacredness, really. Now it depends. Sometimes I'm totally wiped out by this hour. Sometimes I take a few naps during the day and I don't require sleep at 1 in the morning. I have way more energy and clarity than I did at 1 in the afternoon. Did I say welcome and all that? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I love you all. God bless and welcome. Welcome. Maybe I'm not as sharp as I thought. Back to the petroglyphs. It's interesting that it has the word petro in it. Petro is like oil in French and other languages. Petroleum. And where I live, we have the largest grouping of petroglyphs I think in the world. Really remote area. I don't know how a people end up here 150 years ago. And I really don't know how Native Americans end up here thousands of years ago. It's a canyon called 9 Mile Canyon. It's really like 50 miles. And it's full of these petroglyphs. And the irony is that they drill for petroleum or oil in this very same canyon. In fact, the whole area where I live is a hotspot for oil production. They call it production, but they don't produce anything. More of harvesting and whatever. But what I've noticed whenever I'm examining these petroglyphs is that they seem to be a cover-up. I mean, we see the art, but then we also see like a facading, like the stone has been covered up, painted, plastered, and then just to add another layer of confusion, this childlike art is etched into the facade. Like maybe there was a Petra-like clue to something more advanced, something that they had no intention of writing a history for, and they covered it up. And then this art on it, just to ensure that it had another layer of concealment. Now these would be sacred, and most people wouldn't look beyond the art, is my point. Just enthralled and perplexed, studying these childlike scratches and not even looking at the structure and what this may potentially be covering up. And today I have a good clue to support my wild claim. Let's take a pause. Okay, so again today, my point, don't look at the art, look behind the art. Here we are in Sweden, and it will be helpful to understand meltology, but not necessary today. The petroglyphs I want to discuss today are found in Wyoming, and they're some of the most unusual. Sometimes scratched, sometimes painted, like these ones, in another part of Utah, not far from me. These ones are some of the most unusual. So most of them are very primitive, like this one. Just really not giving a shit. But we can see all kinds of anomalies, holes. And again, is this a facade? Here we can see a bird, a bear's paw. And now all of a sudden we're starting to see what look like handprints. Like this was really soft at one point. And then we start to see things like this around these same petroglyphs. And that's what led me to this hypothesis years ago now. I'm running late. What the hell? Now, most people are satisfied with the story, any story. And I think once you realize that this one site is having a laugh at us, at least the narrative, you can begin looking at all other similar petroglyph sites in a new light. Now, this is ridiculous. A clear sign of deception. This material has been added to the rock or the building, but we don't don't need to go that far today. Like I said, we can just focus on this application, plastered shape to conceal. Here our friends have put their name on this photo, and we can see the primitive wannabe petroglyphs, some of the poorest petroglyphs I've ever seen on the right side here. And then we can see this applied over this rock. It's lighter in color than the native rock. We can see tinges of red brick color. And I think that this may have shown signs, again, petra-like signs, signs of former architecture as opposed to geology. Otherwise, there's no reason for this to be done. And I think that this worker, whoever was tasked with covering this up, was lazy on this day. I think they were all lazy. The whole crew. Probably drinking on the job. A lazy cover-up. Poor petroglyphs. And one of the last people to leave the site just said the hell with it, leaving us a clue, a gift. Here we can see this site from afar. I mean, the Native American story is like 1,000 years old. Does it make sense that the land was soft 1,000 years ago? Soft enough to mold like clay? We see how porous it is up here, chocked full of holes. We can see blocks, 1, 2, 3, fused together. And this seems to have been just a small cover-up. So let's take a pause and look at the rest of the structure. So here's our first broader look at this structure, and no doubt, meltology or not, this thing looks like a heated blob, and we do see entrances, just barely, over here on the left as well, and all these little windows now cooked down. This was a building, and how much of it has been covered with this same material. We know that there's been an active cover-up just from that part with the hands. Forgive me, I always misspell things. The White Mountain petroglyphs. Let me zoom out a little just to show you how not only remote this place is, but all of Wyoming. You could fit the whole world in Wyoming. Every last person. But anyway, here we go. Zooming in. I do have plans to visit this place. And here we go. Blockage right away. Just a melted pad with some blocks revealed somewhere in here. I mean, somebody felt they needed to come out here and plaster some evidence. I read online it's a pretty decent road. Here we can see it. One road in. Doesn't lead right to the ruins, but rather this parking lot. And I guess you just kind of bushwhack out here. No handicap access. And a really poor Google image. Let's change the date. 2014. 2019, pretty decent. Everything just getting worse. 2025. Let's go back to 2019. Pre-stupid. Yeah, much better. I don't think we can drop the man anywhere. There's no roads. And it looks like there's some more blockage over on this side as well. And you really can't tell. It was a pretty decent sized looking building or structure. And here we can see they've even named panels. The fertility site, the birthing site. Here we can see the structure from the parking lot. And when I go here, I'm going to note the color of the facading and walk around this structure and locate where else it's been applied. And again, if it's true for this site, it will be true for all sites. As I've hypothesized in the past, all of these petroglyph sites are much more than what people think they are. And this one just makes it a little more obvious. So let's take a pause and look at something else. Part 2. Good boy, Gigi. Part 2. What are we doing here? I don't know. I found myself here a few days later. And if you don't know, before these were supposedly carved, this site was called the Six Grandfathers by the Native Americans. Interestingly, if we look at the word Viking or Vikings, we have VI, 6 kings. And again, the natives called it the Six Grandfathers. 6 kings. Kings, Vikings. You might say, well, there's only 4. If we look here in this old photo, there's better ones, but we can see a 5th to the left of Georgie, to the left of this cloud. What is this cloud covering up? Here it is before they did anything, we are told. And here's this other guy. And here it is from above. Really just a big blob of rock. And what we can see is this chamber back here behind these heads. And I'd like to show you a real picture of this chamber. Earlier my Google was better. I'm not sure what they're doing to me right now. But this was supposed to be some hall of record. Incomplete. And how does this tie into part 1? I believe that this is a facade, and you can see where the facade ends. They've applied a covering over it, altering the structure. So it's not just carving, it's adding concrete and cement. I think the faces are original, and all hair is an afterthought, including beardage and mustachery and clothing. All an afterthought. And again, you can see the edge of the covering. This is one of the most important parts. While most people are looking up here, nobody is considering this application, this facade. And that brings us back to Petra and back to these White Mountain petroglyphs and handprints. If we can clearly see facading over Mount Rushmore, why wouldn't it be the same practice would continue as a cover-up and a distraction from the truth? This is on a small scale, a small clue left behind of this practice that's being implemented here on a larger scale. And here we can see Manitou Springs, Colorado, and I think this is also a facade, covering up something that will have looked much more like this as we see in Petra, really looking at the supposed unfinished parts and seeing the similarities here in Colorado. And I think rendered, new fresh wood added, helping paint picture of Native American dwellings, when really I think it would have looked more like this, and that would be unacceptable when trying to paint the history that they have in North America. So let's take a pause. So I want to end with a conversation I had with some of my Patreons in a weekly group chat that we have. And at some point we asked ourselves the questions that we should always ask ourselves. Where are we? Perhaps pertaining to this research, and where are we going? And really, what do we want? And what do you want? I would be curious to know. This was all leading somewhere, and the truth would help transform your life. What would that look like? And in short, somebody said a magic carpet would be important. I propose that the law, if we would truly understand it the way the controllers do, we could utilize it in the way it was intended to be. And also that some people wouldn't care about that. Some people would prefer a magic carpet. And one Patreon agreed. Magic carpet would be a good step forward. And perhaps he's right. So I shared the research of the magic carpet on that day, and now I'll share it with you. I always forget his name. Viktor Grebennikov. Great man. And it's not to say that he invented the magic carpet, only brought it back from the past. The idea is that you don't need a carpet. You just need the right three-dimensional pattern that would create a frequency or vibration reacting with the ether. Now this great scientist, Viktor, discovered this by studying insects, the bee, and more specifically the beetle. In the beetle, what he observed is when it opened its wings, it created an electromagnetic field. It was not so much a flapping of the wings, but rather pattern on the wings. And he took this pattern and altered it. He made it fourfold, as you can see here, now creating a lift in the center. This is made out of copper, and a lot of cool videos actually showing even modern experiments where you can just take these wings and set them on a table and they'll begin to levitate, just the wings. And this is the idea. The magnetic field will form like a bubble around this platform, and I'm not sure how you steer it. Maybe you just lean into it, and maybe there was something else to it, but nonetheless a magic carpet using a technology that is very grounded in nature. And who's heard of this man, really, besides some in our community. But this, along with thousands of other technologies from the past, have been buried, and I have no doubt are being utilized by some. Here again we can see Victor, and apparently he discovered this in 1988. He was working with another professor, seen here. He applied for a patent. In 1991, he built his anti-gravity plane, reaching speeds of 1,500 to 2,400 kilometers an hour. Similar to what I told you I saw flying in the air, silent, moving at unimaginable speeds. The aircraft was almost invisible from below. People who observed it from the ground saw instead a light sphere or a disk or a cloud with sharply outlined edges. So this may very well be the phenomenon that we're seeing up there, being employed in less than beneficial ways. And in 2001, he died of a stroke. He wrote a book called My World in 1997, and there's a full version of the book on the internet here. You can copy and paste this. And what do you think? He applied for a patent, so we should be able to reverse engineer it. He wrote a book. So here it is, the flying carpet in recent times. I think I'll leave it there for today. I hope you've enjoyed. I love you all. God bless, and I'll see you in the next one.